Hey Kipster, welcome back to Science Specials class. Now, I know that you're going to be starting a new unit in science about inheritance and traits and how that relates to animals and plants and maybe even yourself. So today we're going to talk a little bit about how inheritance and traits affect us. Basically, we're going to be talking about what makes us who we are. So I have a couple of pictures here. Over here is me and my dad. Over here is me and my mom. And here are me and my sisters. And when I was looking at these pictures, I noticed that I inherited a trait from my dad. Basically, inheritance means a trait that you get from your birth parents or their parents. And even though you're related to aunts and uncles and cousins, and you may have some of the same traits as them, we only inherit traits from our birth parents and so on. I actually look a lot like my stepmom, but that's not who's in the picture because my mom and my dad are who I got my traits from. So when I was looking at this picture, I thought it was very funny because I can tell that I inherited my height, how tall I am, from my dad. If we look at this picture over here, my dad and I are about the same height. In this picture, I am wearing some high heels, so he's a little bit taller than me. When we look over here at this picture of my mom and I, my mom is wearing high heels and I have flat shoes on and I'm still taller than her. I'm much, much taller than my mom. Over here are my sisters and I, and again, I am much, much taller than my sisters. So when we think about our height, how short or tall we are, I inherited that trait from my dad, and my sisters inherited that trait from my mom. A trait is a characteristic that's passed on from one parent to a child, or from a parent to a child. So if you think about your hair color, your skin color, your eye color, all of those things are traits that we've received from our parents and their parents, so our grandparents. Even though you might have some of the similar traits between you and your siblings, usually an individual will have their own unique traits. So my sister Katie and I have the same hair color, and my other sister does not have the same hair color as us, but they're both short and I'm tall. So each individual will inherit some traits. Some of them might be the same, some of them might be different. And all of our traits make us who we are. An equal number of traits are passed on from each parent. So you get half of your traits from your mom, half of your traits from your dad. So today we're going to do a quick little demonstration on how this works using gingerbread people. So here I have these gingerbread people. These are the grandparents, grandfather and grandmother A, grandfather and grandmother B. These are the parents, the mother and father. So we can see that the mother's parents were grandfather and grandmother A, and the father's parents were grandfather and grandmother B. Then the mother and father had 4 children. They had Mary, George, Elizabeth, and Carl. We are going to use colors to show how traits are passed through generations of grandparents to parents to children. So if we look at grandfather A and all of his traits as red dots. Now, all of these red dots don't mean the same thing. It could mean one is his eye color, one is his hair color, one is his skin color. These are all traits of grandfather A and grandmother A. Since they're not related, they have different traits. Same thing here with grandfather B and grandmother B. So we have red for grandfather A, blue for grandmother A, yellow for grandfather B, and purple for grandmother B. So each of these traits represents a different thing, and we're going to see which of these traits are passed down to their children and then to their grandchildren. What I'm going to do to show how these pass down is I'm going to take 3 traits from grandfather A and 3 traits from grandmother A, and then I'm going to give them to the mother. So I took 3 here, and now I'm taking 3 from there. So mother has gotten all of her traits from her parents, grandfather and grandmother A. She got 3 from grandfather and 3 from grandmother because you get the same amount of traits from each parent. Now over here, when father gets his traits from grandparents B, what colors do you think they'll be? Let's see. I see that grandfather B has all yellow traits, so I think he's going to get some yellow traits and some purple traits from grandmother B. Is he going to get the same amount of traits or a different amount of traits from each parent? It's going to be the same, so he's going to get 3 yellow dots from grandfather B and 3 purple dots from grandmother B. So you can see that all the traits that the father has came from his parents, and all the traits that the mother has came from her parents. Now, when the mother and father have their 4 children, they are going to randomly, so without choosing which ones, get 3 traits from mother and 3 traits from father. So what I did was I put these color of dots in a cup and I picked them out randomly. And here's what I got. Mary got 3 traits from mother. So she's going to get either red or blue traits from mother. Let's see how many she got. Ooh, she got 2 red and 1 blue from mother. Now she's going to get some traits from father. She got 2 purple and 1 yellow. So all of her traits came from her grandparents through her mother and father, and these are all the traits that she received from her parents and grandparents. Now, George over here is about to receive some traits from his mother, father, and grandparents, but they're not going to be exactly the same as Mary because it's different every time. That's why you look kind of like your siblings, but not exactly like them. You're not identical unless you're twins. So George is going to get 3 from his mother. We know they're either going to be red or blue. Ooh, 2 blues and a red. And then he's going to get 3 from his father. 2 purples and a yellow. So they both got 2 purples and a yellow. They both got some red and some blue, but not the same amount. And remember, each of these traits represents something different. So even if they both got 2 purple ones from grandmother B, it could be different traits. One of them might have gotten her hair color. One of them may have gotten her eye color. Now let's look at Elizabeth. Elizabeth is going to get 3 from her mother, 2 reds and a blue, and 2 yellows and a purple from her father. So Elizabeth now has all of her traits, and it is a different number of traits from each grandparent than Mary and George had. Last but not least, we have Carl. Carl got 3 blues from his mother. So he did not inherit any traits from grandfather A, but he inherited a lot of traits from grandmother A. Now he has to inherit some from the father's side of the family, and we see 2 yellows and a purple. So each of these children have inherited traits from their parents and their grandparents, but they are not all the same because they're only siblings. They're not twins. Now, your job is going to be to think about this experiment that we just ran, and you're going to head over to the classwork tab and answer these questions for week 8. The first question is, would Mary, George, Elizabeth, and Carl look identical or have the same traits as their parents? Let's think about it. Mother has all blue and all red. Father has all yellow and all purple. And each of the kids have a variation. So think, are they going to look identical, exactly the same as their mother and father? The next question, did all 4 children inherit exactly the same traits? Or is there some variation? That means, is it a little bit different? Do they have identical traits? Did they inherit exactly the same traits, or is it different? Number 3, how many of the children inherited a trait from each one of their grandparents? So to inherit a trait from each one of their grandparents, they have to have all 4 colors. How many of the gingerbread people have all 4 colors? And our last question, is there a child that didn't inherit a particular trait? Meaning, what color didn't a child inherit? I want you to tell me if there was a gingerbread grandchild who did not inherit a trait from one of their grandparents. Now, this picture here is on your assignment, so you'll be able to look at it when you're answering these questions. I cannot wait to see what you've learned about inheritance and traits so far, and I will see you next time.